look at this, Raiden is back as the center of attention. This little doohickeys been sitting on my shelf since 2013, and now I finally get the chance to wipe the dust off of this and see what I've been missing. That is, until I found out the game is also available on the PC with all the extra DLC included, so I double dipped, and that's the version of the game I'm looking at. Why? PlatinumGames! Yes, though I have not played all that they have to offer just yet, my love of the Bayonetta series has made me a supporter of their endeavors, so I'll gladly spend a few extra bucks if it means they can keep making cool games. Now, I'm not one to judge a book by its cover. Well, not anymore, ever since I played Mobile Light Force 2. It's not what you think. There's certainly something more in your face about this one. Metal Gear Solid 4 was the grand finale of the series. Everyone's stories wrapped up in some form or fashion. That was that. What more could be told? Metal Gear Rising Revengeance began life as Metal Gear Solid Rising. And I recall when this game was being teased too. Raiden in his cybernetic ninja outfit, gruesomely cutting things to pieces with his blade. It was eye-catching, but let's remember the ending of MGS4, and I'm sorry to spoil this a little bit. Raiden was back in a normal body to live life with Rose and his new kids, so why was he back in the ninja gear? Metal Gear Solid Rising was supposed to be a title set in between the events of Sons of Liberty and Guns of the Patriots, chronicling Raiden's life and elaborating on a few things. It sounded like the kind of thing I was asking for at the end of my MGS4 plot synopsis, an adventure explaining how Raiden saved Sonny, met with Big Mama, and got his new cybernetic threads. This plan fell through in the end though. Rising was always planned to be more of an action stealth hybrid focusing on Raiden's ninja skills and cutting everything in his path, along with the classic stealth gameplay that defined Metal Gear. Combining the two styles of gameplay turned out to be too cumbersome for the developers, and the game as is was quietly cancelled. But Hideo Kojima one day met up with Atsushi Inaba of PlatinumGames, and after a discussion, Kojima requested that PlatinumGames take up the project and complete it, with Kenji Saito, the main programmer of Bayonetta, placed in charge of directing it. The original idea of it being a game set between Sons of Liberty and Guns of the Patriots was scrapped in favor of a game set after Guns of the Patriots to give the developers more freedom with what they can do with Raiden and make a story more accessible to non-Metal Gear fans. And the stealth action gameplay was also retooled into a highly energetic hack and slash formula. I can hear some people seething at the teeth when I call it hack and slash. Fine then. The spectacle fighter or character action game. You want to know why I call it hack and slash? Because I spend 95% of the game hacking and slashing things with my katana, so cut me some slack. The end result was not Metal Gear Solid Rising, but Metal Gear Rising Revengeance for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and 1 year later the PC. I love PlatinumGames, but now they're taking the wheel on a franchise that's been firmly established for years, so ninja action or not, does this game succeed? Who's it best for? Let's find out. Okay, for the sake of tradition, I figured I'd give you guys the typical spoiler bumper, but let's make this very clear now. Rising's story is not even close to reaching the level of sophistication of your standard Metal Gear Solid plot. Revengeance is very vanilla. Not that that's a bad thing, but if you're looking for something deeper, look somewhere else. You won't find it here. The SOP system has been destroyed, the Patriots' AI have been wiped out, and the war economy has ceased. 4 years later, private military companies are still used to handle affairs across the globe, but on a much smaller scale. Raiden, now working for a PMC called Maverick, is seen providing security detail for an African prime minister. The man's gotta pay the bills somehow, and I guess being a fighter is all he really knows. I don't know what Rose thinks about all this, but guess what? She's not in this game, nor is Raiden's son. Maybe PlatinumGames didn't like any of this shit either. Raiden and the Prime Minister are suddenly attacked by two assailants, Jetstream Sam and Sundowner of the rogue PMC Desperado, a faction of terrorists that want to disrupt peace and keep the world in a state of conflict. They waste no time in wiping out security while giving us these phenomenal shit-eating faces. Once again equipped with a cybernetic body, Raiden attempts to stop the two terrorists, but he's too late to save the Prime Minister and gets gruesomely overpowered by his mysterious opponents. Raiden is saved in a nick of time thanks to his comrades in Maverick and lives to fight another day. A few weeks later, Desperado strikes again in a different part of the world, so with a new and improved cybernetic body along with his Maverick affiliates Boris, Kevin, Courtney, and Doctor, Raiden is sent to stop Desperado's ambitions and save the day. His one-man mission leads him to an encounter with the AI prototype labeled as LQ-84I, which is thankfully shortened to Blade Wolf, when Raiden defeats it and eventually recruits it as an ally. Soldiers of Desperado begin their attack on Raiden, but the man is able to cut down everything they throw at him, including a woman with multiple arms named Mistral. After a successful raid, Raiden heads to Mexico to investigate a research laboratory. Oh my god. This is the kind of game you're playing, guys. I'm tempted to play the entire game like this. Okay, where was I? I'm sorry. Raiden heads to Mexico to investigate a research laboratory believed to belong to Desperado. He heads into the sewers to find the place and locates the entrance thanks to the assistance of a runaway orphan named George who escaped from the lab while being experimented on. Desperado was kidnapping kids from all over the world to place their brains in cybernetic bodies and train them for war. This hits a special dark place in Raiden's heart, being a former child soldier himself, and he vows to utterly destroy Desperado for their inhumane practices. A recorded video from the lab reveals that Desperado is secretly getting funded by World Marshal, one of the most advanced PMCs on the planet, and Stephen Armstrong, a Colorado senator running for president. Raiden immediately brings the fight directly to the United States and heads to Denver, Colorado to raid World Marshal HQ. There he eliminates more of Desperado's elite and learns that Armstrong plans on assassinating the current president during some peace negotiations in Pakistan to ignite a second war on terror. With not much time left before Armstrong's plans are executed, Raiden enlists the help of a returning Sonny to board a rocket fast enough for Raiden to travel across the world and stop Armstrong. The Senator is rocking his own variety of Metal Gear to take on Raiden, but the biggest threat turns out to be Armstrong himself, using advanced nanomachines to hulk up and beat the shit out of Raiden while delivering an epic speech about what his goals are. Essentially, he's a Darwinist. He wants to create a world where the strong survive and fight for what they believe in, eliminating the need for pointless wars and giving people a greater purpose in life. It's one of those utopia justifies the mean sort of scenarios. The man wants to create a better world in his vision no matter the cost, and Raiden's not down with that, given the whole cybernetic child soldiers dilemma and the amount of people at risk. A long, grueling battle between the two occurs, and Raiden finally cuts the man down, saving the day. And that's it, really. I haven't had a plot this straightforward since the MSX Metal Gears. It's just, this shit is easier to understand in Snake Eater, which was already way simpler than Sons of Liberty. It's pretty black and white again. Raiden is the good guy, and Desperado are the bad guys, with no gray area in between. Now let me be clear, it's not as if this plot is devoid of any character arcs, but it's almost exclusively on Raiden, and at the end of the day, I don't think even that's very important. Raiden has an inner conflict throughout the first half of Rising concerning his inner demon Jack, or Jack the Ripper. It's basically his second half that loves bathing in the blood of his victims, a result of his days as a child soldier. It's a tragic origin, but in the end, even his Jack the Ripper persona wishes to save the day from what are clearly bad guys and prevent future child soldiers from being created, so it's less of an issue and more like an excuse to give Raiden a superpower in gameplay. Everyone else that's not sword fodder for Raiden is left to optional codec conversations for development of any sort. Because this is mostly Raiden's game, not much time is given to these guys, including Raiden's buddies in Maverick and Blade Wolf, the cybernetic AI Raiden has reconstructed after cutting his ass up. This ninja dog has some sort of arc. He wants freedom, which is more obvious in his separate DLC chapter, but Raiden gives it to him rather early on, and that's that. The rest of the time he's mostly a foil to Raiden, and the source of some deadpan comic relief given how blunt he comes off when communicating with Raiden in codec conversations.
I say let's throw him a bone.
Wordplay. My exoskeleton resembles a canine. Canines enjoy bones. Amusing on 2 levels.
The Desperado gang are straight up one-dimensional bad guys. They're entertainingly cheesy and just as over the top as everything else here, but they're about as deep as a rain puddle. Jetstream Sam and Armstrong are the two exceptions, but it's more obvious on what kind of character Armstrong is compared to Sam. This guy has an agenda, that much is clear, but you're not sure on what that is unless you play his side story, which is DLC. Yeah. I believe Revengeance's plot works given the context of everything it entails. It's straightforward, to the point, over the top, and very self-aware. It's definitely not Metal Gear level, but it doesn't feel like it's desperately trying to be. This is the kind of story you're getting into. You have a game where the very first boss is a Metal Gear Ray unit, which Raiden fucking throws into the air. Raiden gets his arm cut off by Sam early in the game, and this is his response.
Shit, not again.
There's Ninja Raiden in the sombrero, Ninja Raiden driving down the interstate in his fancy car, Ninja Raiden riding a motorcycle. If Shadow the Hedgehog were this whimsical, I think I would have been a hell of a lot easier on it. It's a popcorn spectacle loaded with a ton of fun, but again, definitely not traditional Metal Gear. Not that the Metal Gear series wasn't packed with its own sort of fun, but this is on such an entirely different level and may turn off those loyal to Kojima style of storytelling. I think it helps that this game is after the events of Guns of the Patriots. It's too radically different to be the in-between game it was originally meant to be. Making it irrelevant to the Solid series was a smart move, and the game is able to flaunt its nanomachine-enhanced muscles because of that. I love the sort of stories the Metal Gear franchise can cook up, but I also love the type of story that just wants to have a good time, which this game excels in. Oh, but the high-flying nature of Revengeance doesn't just stop with the story. The whole game is clearly branded with the PlatinumGames stamp, and if you're a fan of what they produce, you'll be right at home here. So it kinda goes without saying, fans of the Metal Gear formula exclusively, and I'm talking gameplay this time, not just story, will most definitely want to look somewhere else because, I mean, isn't it obvious enough? You fucking cut a Metal Gear Ray unit in half! Revengeance is continuously in your face, bursting with flashy action sequences, rocking out with heavy metal tunes that flawlessly reflect the circumstances, oozing with high-speed thrills, never slowing down no matter the environment or situation, even in sewers. You can kiss stealth goodbye because this game is all about confronting your opponent's head on and slashing them to bits. PMC soldiers, cyborgs with augmented weapons, returning geckos with super kicks, unmanned helicopters, and an abundance more machinations that will put Raiden's ninja skills to work. And boss fights are like the ultimate test. They're climactic as all hell, as much as I would expect from PlatinumGames PlatinumGames. Raiden's mobility is damn near superhero levels. He can jump now, first off, that means a lot in the Metal Gear universe, believe me, but he can also climb up structures with superhuman reflexes and use his cybernetic body to run extremely fast on the ground. His high-frequency blade is the weapon of choice, though as you defeat more bosses, you can also use their weapons to your benefit to execute unique combos. With great speed and agility, Raiden can not only slice through enemies, but specific environments to give him a field advantage. Mastering your blade is important for Raiden's survival because enemies are very aggressive and will not hesitate to stomp Raiden to the ground. But I don't just mean mastering your blade as an offensive option, but also defensive. Revengeance doesn't have a basic dodging mechanic. You can buy something of the sort in the shop and it helps, but if you're expecting a dedicated dodge feature like in Bayonetta or God of War, don't. Admittedly, this was a hurdle for me my first time because I don't think I've ever played a fighter that didn't have a natural dodge ability. In Revengeance, Raiden's method of defending himself is parrying. When an enemy is about to attack you, signified by a red light, you simply attack back at the right time. The resulting clash can stun your opponent and leave them open for counterattack. It's unorthodox for sure, but something I believe you'll get used to early on. It is satisfying to pull off and serves to further heighten the aggressive style of Revengeance. Secondary weapons like grenades and rocket launchers can also be equipped for some long-range problem solving, but because there's so much emphasis on sword combat, I had to repeatedly remind myself that I had these in my inventory at all. Rockets are good for area opponents like choppers, but I can also just run up and ninja jump towards them to tear them apart. You could be A or B about it. I think that was supposed to be the point. Upgrades to refill or outright extend your health and fuel cells can be found in item boxes throughout each chapter, and you can find those easily with your AR vision. It's like Batman's detective mode in the Arkham games, letting you spot items and enemy locations through solid walls. But the real trick to keeping Raiden's health in check is proper use of blade mode. When his fuel meter is filled enough, Raiden can slow things down and perform a Zandatsu, where you precisely cut off body parts that glow blue when Raiden has dealt enough damage to them. It's a way to slowly disable your opponents and make them easier to deal with in groups, and if you aim at just the right spot, Raiden can salvage an enemy's electrolytes to instantly heal himself and replenish his fuel cells for continuous use of Zandatsu. This is an indispensable technique in situations where you're surrounded by hard-hitting foes, and also serves as a fantastic reward for cutting up your opponent right. There's nothing stopping you from button mashing your way to the top, and it'll get you results, but using Zandatsu to disable your foes and extract their precious bodily fluids is key to getting through unscathed. Sometimes the health packs you pick up from boxes only help so much, and there isn't many to go around in some cases. Performing well will score you hefty amounts of battle points, currency you can use between chapters to upgrade your combat techniques, the strength of your attacks, fuel cell consumption, and other bonuses like alternate costumes. Sombrero Raiden will never not be humorous, but I also like switching to MGS4 Raiden on occasion, and of course the one and only Grey Fox. Seeing this in action totally makes up for the rather lackluster ninja missions back in VR missions. Now, Revengeance tries to pay respects to the series' stealth roots with mixed results. Sometimes you're given the choice to stay out of enemy sight for a bloodless endeavor, but those are almost always followed by a mandatory fight sequence, so just fight them anyway. That's battle points you're missing. It's not like you're any less capable either. You may come across a hostage or two when heading to the next area, and the only way to save them is to quietly deal with the soldiers holding them at gunpoint. If the soldiers spot you, the hostage goes and you just lost some battle points, but there are plenty of other methods of gaining BP, so rescuing hostages is fairly inconsequential. This game doesn't care about stealth. It makes me wonder why they even bother with some of these instances. They end up feeling a bit forced. You certainly don't earn higher ranks for keeping it quiet. It's about how much shit you wreck, how fast you do it, and whether or not you got hurt. Without spending much time in VR missions or purposefully hunting down those optional encounters for additional ranks and battle points, Revengeance clocks in about 8 hours, and a good chunk of that is gameplay. The story's not just straightforward, the cutscenes are also not nearly as long as previous entries. There are 2 separate story missions involving Blade Wolf and Jetstream Sam available as separate DLC for the console versions and already included in the PC release. They're both pretty short, not much longer than an hour each, and they reuse a lot of assets, but they're pretty cool extras, if only for the characters you control. Blade Wolf places you in control of the titular character, set before the robotic canine meets with Raiden in the main story. And if you feel like you didn't get your stealth fix in the main story, Blade Wolf's got you covered because this content is all about using stealth to get by easily, since Blade Wolf doesn't rock the same sort of defenses as Raiden. It certainly satisfied my classic Metal Gear appetite, so Metal Gear fans may end up really liking it, bearing the random platforming segment around the center of it. The Jetstream Sam content is lacking in original areas and ideas, but man, do I fucking love how this guy handles. He can't sneak up on enemies and give them a quick kill, but his combos are vicious on the ground or in the air. He feels twice as fast in Raiden, and he has a double jump. You know what, I'm reminded of Bayonetta when playing as Sam, so that might be it. This guy's awesome, and I just wish he was an alternate character I could choose in the main campaign to get more mileage out of him, even though that wouldn't make much sense. This is a great game bar none. Not very Metal Gear. In fact, if it weren't for Raiden and the appearance of Metal Gear Ray, I would say this is Metal Gear in name only. There's little to no stealth, the story isn't Metal Gear caliber in length, grace, or complexity, and there's no Snake, if you really care for the war-torn soldier. I guess objectively, you can call Revengeance the worst Metal Gear game in existence, but that's only if you're comparing it to its predecessors. Revengeance is something else, it yearns to be something else, and what we have here is a tremendously fun, action-packed adventure that's a little on the short side, but absolutely worth your time and money if you love this type of game. I don't recommend Revengeance as a Metal Gear title, but I sure as hell recommend it as a great video game in general. Oh my goodness, I think I see a light at the end of this Metal Gear tunnel. We just have a few more pit stops to make before making our complete exit, and it involves these two. Now, that straw poll I made at the Ghost Babel Portable Ops Double review really spoke volumes, so because you guys demanded it, I'm looking at the Metal Gear Acid series for the PlayStation Portable. After that, I'm heading into Peace Walker, which will lead into the final video of the marathon, a double review of Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain. Okay, so I gotta get my hands dirty with these first, and they're role-playing games, so... Ooh, well, with all that said, I'll see you guys next time with the Metal Gear Acid series. Thank you all for watching, have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care.